Like if you had a kid who was drawing all these creepy pictures and your nanny is telling you that your kid might be like haunted or something, obviously you're not going to take that very well. Hello book besties! Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Kiara and I am so excited to have you here. Now, I know we're still getting to know each other, but there is one thing that you should know about me, and that is that I am absolutely Booktok influenced. I read a lot of Booktok thrillers, and I thought it would be a good idea to give you guys my top 10 recommendations as someone who's easily influenced. Because one thing about me is if there's a bandwagon, I want on. If there is a Booktok influence, I'm going to be influenced. Now, before we get into it, besties, I just want to apologize. It is really hot in Florida today, so I am using a little fan. Okay, now I spent a lot of my time on Booktok. I love watching book recommendation videos, book review videos, Booktok, like top 10 of the year. I love watching those kinds of videos. I read a lot of Booktok thrillers. I get a lot of my recommendations from Booktok. And in today's video, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a list of my top recommendations. If you are getting into the thriller genre, if you just want more ideas, or if you're also just like me and are very easily influenced by other readers, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one, because I think my list has a pretty good range of different types of Booktok thrillers. So without further ado, let's get right on into today's list. Now, before we get into it, if you guys kind of see me bouncing around with this laptop, I do apologize. These 10 books, I have like descriptions and stuff that I want to say about them, and I have the memory of a flea, so I am going to be kind of looking back and forth between my camera, my laptop, just to be able to remember all that I need to say. But anyways, before we kind of get into this list, I just want to let you know this list is totally subjective. These are 100% my opinions. Everybody is going to like different things in the thriller genre, so I would recommend compiling a bunch of different recommendations and just trying them out, see which ones you like, and you'll form your own taste, but these are some of the ones that I think might be worth your time. Now, these picks for today, they are not going to be in popular order. Like, I'm not going to give you like worst to best. They're just 10 books that I recommend. Honestly, these were all 4 or 5 stars for me, so I really wouldn't be able to give you a ranking anyways. But these are the top 10 thriller books that I think would be worth your time that I first heard about through TikTok. The first one up on today's list is called The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'll include a picture of it somewhere on the screen. This book was so spooky, so gothic, but still a thriller. So it would be great for spooky season, but honestly, if you're someone like me and likes to do like these summer-ween book reading challenges, then honestly, I'd say read it at any point in the year. But let's get right into the description for this book. Now, before I actually get into the description, let me also just say I got this recommendation from one of those like rapid fire Booktok videos where they give you just like a bunch of recommendations with no explanation of like plot or anything. So I went into it completely blind. I would almost recommend that you do the same, but I will give you just enough of the plot so that it doesn't spoil anything. So The Only One Left by Riley Sager. It is, again, a gothic thriller. It is about this woman called Kit. She takes a job as a home health aide, caring for this elderly woman named Lenora. Now, Lenora is being accused, or has been accused, of murdering her entire family. And the crazy part about this book, the part that really had me so stressed out, is that Lenora is finally ready to tell her story of what happened that night. But Lenora is paralyzed. She can't speak and she doesn't have a lot of motor function left in her body. So she communicates with Kit by using an old typewriter and slowly tapping each button. So if that doesn't stress you out, like, I don't know what will. Honestly, like, this book had me on the edge of my seat, biting my nails. Like, it was so stressful. This story always teeters between horror and thriller. Every chapter ends off on a cliffhanger, and I love the spooky vibes. It wasn't like super scary, but it was like one of those books where it's like set in a dark, stormy night on a house on the top of a cliff and everything. So the vibes were there. It was so good. It was my first Riley Sager, but obviously Riley Sager is an extremely popular and talented writer. So I'm so excited to get more into his books. I have a few on my physical TBR to read, so I am very excited to read more Riley Sager. But if you need something to jump into and you don't know where to start, I started with The Only One Left and I had an amazing first impression, so I would definitely recommend. Next up on our list is Count My Lies by Sophie Stava, or Stava. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that last name. In short, this story is about Sloane. She runs into this dad and daughter, and for some reason, she lies to them both and tells them that she is a nurse. This lie aids her in finding a summertime nannying job with them to take care of the daughter. Now, this book is so complicated. The family that she is caring for, they have a lot of secrets, a lot of lies, and a lot of layers. If you are somebody who maybe wants to get into thrillers, but you're not necessarily looking for a book about like a serial killer or something like super scary, I would say start with Count My Lies. It is all about people who lie, maybe they're a little bit psychotic, and absolutely unhinged women. This book is amazing. It will keep your attention. It had me sat for the entire thing, and I read this book very, very fast. Now, what I loved about this book too is every lie that Sophie creates in this book gets tied into the plot. Like, she doesn't just create a lie and then it just like drops off. There's always a reason to each lie. Everybody is lying, and the direction that this book kind of took, I personally didn't see coming. It's my first Sophie Stava, sorry, my first book that I have read from her. I would love to see more of her work. But yeah, definitely recommend Count My Lies is so, so good. Okay, the next one on our list, this one does kind of teeter between thriller and horror. So heads up, this one is a little bit scarier. It is Hidden Pictures by Jason Recolak. I am so sorry if I just butchered that last name. But basically, this book is about this girl named Mallory. She is a recovering drug addict. And again, like Count My Lies, she takes a summer nannying job. The reason why I say that it was a little scary is because in this book, you literally get pictures from the book. The pictures kind of start off not innocent, because they're not innocent, but they start off as like childlike sketches, and they almost go into like very detailed like artist work, like professional grade drawings. So that is why this is so scary. So Mallory is trying to put together like, why is this kid drawing these kind of pictures? What story is it trying to tell? While also trying to navigate and keep her job. Like, if you had a kid who was drawing all these creepy pictures and your nanny is telling you that your kid might be like haunted or something, obviously you're not going to take that very well. For me, I don't know, it's something about creepy kids, like they really kind of freak me out. Proceed with caution, but this was a really good thriller. It was one of those thrillers that had me sat until 4 in the morning so that I could finish this book because the ending was so crazy. I love this book so much. Definitely recommend. And it would be a great like spooky season read because it is kind of scary, honestly. Next up on this list is one of my absolute favorites. This book is called The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. Now you guys buckle up for this thriller. This book is about Sarah and Adam. They are married. Sarah is an attorney. Adam is a struggling writer. Now, this is not a spoiler, although it might sound like one. Adam is having an affair with this woman named Kelly, and Kelly dies. Yeah. So now Adam is the #1 suspect in Kelly's freaking case. Yeah, it goes there. And so now Sarah does the craziest thing that anybody could think of. She decides to be his attorney and defend him in court. If that plot alone doesn't stress you out, I really don't know what would. Sarah, at first when I read this book, she was already kind of scaring me because I'm like, girl, you are crazy for that. But, you know, she decides to stick by her man to see this through and defend him through this court case. So the book really takes off from there. It is so crazy. I did not see the plot twist coming, and honestly, it was another one that just had me glued to my seat. This is a Booktok thriller, like top recommendation for a reason. It is so good, And Sarah is probably one of my favorite female characters that I have ever read about in a thriller book. So if you're somebody who likes domestic thrillers, you like liars and psychos, I would definitely recommend The Perfect Marriage. I know that The Perfect Marriage also has a sequel. I have not read this book, but I do have plans to pick it up eventually at some point this year, and I would love to read more books by Geneva Rose. I know she has a couple good ones. Oh, the other thing I want to mention about The Perfect Marriage is it's also kind of a courtroom sort of book. Like, you get to see glimpses into the trial. You also get the POV of Adam and Sarah, so you're getting told two sides of the same story. So that also added a piece to the thrilling part of this book, because you have Adam, who obviously he's the one who did the cheating and is being accused of murdering this girl. Then you also have Sarah, who's the wife defending him. So that to me was also extremely interesting to see both sides and not just one POV. And obviously the courtroom part of it was also super interesting for me. I don't really read a lot of trial-based books, but this one was very good and the court cases were very fun to read about. At number 5, we have The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. Now, this book I did on audio. I also read this on Kindle. At the time it was on Kindle Unlimited. I have no idea if it still is. I don't use Kindle Unlimited a ton these days, so I'm not sure if it still is. I would love to get a trophy copy of this book. But basically, the premise of the story is this couple, they're a doctor and a surgeon, I'm pretty sure. Their names are Christopher and Hannah, and they have always wanted to have a child, but they struggled to have one. And in a desperate bid to become parents, they adopt this little girl. This little girl's name is Janie, and Janie is 6 years old. However, Janie was very severely abused and traumatized from birth, so she has a lot of her own issues going on, but she forms an attachment to Christopher and does not form the same attachment with Hannah. So throughout this book, you get to see that struggle of this little girl, Janie, picking Christopher while showing sides of herself to Hannah that are very, very concerning. This book was amazing. I think the very interesting thing about this book too is Lucinda Berry. I believe she's a researcher, and I think she does a lot of trauma research. She is a psychologist, so I think that adds a layer to this book as well. You can definitely tell that a lot of thought went into the book. I personally do love books where the married couple, they go through a lot of turmoil and stuff like that, and their lives are absolutely ruined, and that happens in this book. So very good recommendation. Again, something about a creepy kid will really, really scare me. So I will say this one is a little bit scarier than the other ones on our list. That could just be a me thing. You might not really find creepy kids that scary. I do, so it added yet another layer to the story. And to me, it also kind of tiptoed between thriller and horror. Alrighty guys, we are almost done with this list. The next one up on the list is The One by John Mars. I will preface this by saying this is my only John Mars book, and I will also preface this by saying this is kind of like a genre blend between sci-fi and thriller, and I absolutely love that. So basically, this book is about this DNA test. It's made public, and this DNA test, if you take it, it is going to tell you who your ultimate soulmate is. Now, the interesting thing about this test is that it doesn't have any parameters. So for example, you could be matched with somebody from a completely different age range than you. You could be matched with somebody of the same sex, somebody with an entirely different life than you, someone in a different country, anybody. It could be anybody. So that's what's so interesting about this test. And basically this book follows 5 couples who would take the test and they are matched. And these matches are supposed to be happily ever after, but they're starting to turn into a real nightmare. That in itself is so cool. I love when thrillers take on a new concept and they're not like every other thriller that's been put out there, and this is definitely one of those that is so unique. There is a Netflix show about this book. Now, I will say, if you watch the show, you're probably still going to want to read this book. The book and the show are not exact copies of each other. The show is just inspired by the book, so it's not an exact retelling of what happens. I read this book in one sitting. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when there is a book with multiple POVs, like more than 2, for example, the 5 couples, so really 10 characters that we follow in this book. When there is a book with multiple POVs like that, there are some chapters that I'm not super excited for, and there are others where I'm like rushing through them because I love that specific POV. In this book, I didn't really feel that way. I loved every single couple in this book. They all had something like really chaotic and happening, and all their chapters left off on cliffhangers, which I love because it kept me sat and reading. Like I said, I read this in one sitting. At the time, I think this one was on Kindle Unlimited as well. This book was amazing. It is definitely one of those thrillers that I will always recommend. Maybe not for a beginner if you're not somebody who's like comfortable with sci-fi just yet, but it was really good, and it is probably top 5 for me. If I had to make a ranking video, this would be pretty high up on the list. The next one on my list is a very recent thriller. It is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. Now, this book is everywhere right now on BookTube and Booktok, and this thriller is very good as well. In this book, we follow a woman named Eden Fox. Eden goes out for a run one day and comes back to find that her key no longer fits in the door, and there's a woman who answers and claims to be her. Not only that, but her husband also is going along with it. Now, I don't want to say too much else about the premise because I don't want to spoil anything, but this was my first Alice Feeney book and I absolutely loved it. I watched her show that she has on Netflix for His and Hers, and that was also amazing, so I knew I was going to eat up My Husband's Wife. This one had some funny one-liners and I was actually giggling while reading. It was one of those books where every chapter left off on a cliffhanger too, and I could not put this book down once I started it. It was so good. The next one on our list, I debated a lot about putting this on the list just because I feel like the hype for this book has gotten a little over the top, especially with the movie that just recently came out about it. This book is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Now, the reason why I put this on the list is because I first heard about it through Booktok, and I first read it before there was mention of a movie. I've read a couple of Frida McFadden books, and this one is definitely the best, in my opinion. In this book, we follow a girl named Millie who lands a job as a live-in housemaid for a rich couple. Now, everything is fine and dandy until the wife, Nina, starts doing really weird things and starts getting a little upset with Millie about her job performance. I kind of want to leave it there. I don't want to give you too much else. I honestly do recommend this book because I love books about unhinged women, and Nina and Millie are both characters that are completely unhinged. If you've already seen the movie and you haven't read this book, you're probably okay to skip, as I thought the movie did a pretty good job at depicting what happens in the book, but if you haven't seen the movie, I would definitely recommend the book still, so I'm still going to leave it on the list as it's probably the best Frida McFadden book that I've read, and it's definitely one that I picked up because of Booktok. Next up on our list, at number 9, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is an OG thriller wreck for me. I read this a long time ago when I first started my thriller reading journey, and while I was still like super new on Booktok as well. This book follows a psychotherapist. His name is Theo, and he becomes obsessed with this patient named Alicia. Alicia is an artist, and she shot her husband 5 times in the face and then never spoke a word again. So now she is in this mental hospital, and Theo is obsessed with her, and his aim is to get her to speak about what happened. This book is crazy. Some people say that they saw the ending coming. I am not one of those people. Like, I did not see the ending coming, and that made it so good for me. So honestly, I don't know, maybe I'm just really bad at putting puzzle pieces together, but I did not see the ending coming, and I really hope you won't either because it is one of those books that took a crazy turn. This is my only Alex Michaelides book that I have read. I do want to read more stuff by him, but I've heard that The Silent Patient might be his best. I really hope that's not the case. I hope his other books are really good. I have The Maidens by him on my TBR, so we shall see. And last on our list, we have Mocha by Monica Kim. This book I actually just recently read. I actually just finished it last night. And this book, you guys, it was crazy. This is a thriller, but it's also kind of marketed as a horror. Now, if you want my honest opinion, I didn't really think it was that scary. I didn't really think it was that much of a horror. It read more like a thriller to me. So if you're somebody who's really sensitive to horrors, maybe skip this one. The premise is so good and so important. I love this book. This story is set in South Korea, first of all, so I do apologize if I mispronounce their names. But we have Daya, who is our main female character. She gets swept up in this brand new romance that she is in with this, I think he's like a multi-millionaire, and he is amazing to her in the beginning, but something happens and their romance quickly tumbles into chaos. And then we have our other main character. He is a shy IT guy. This is the one that I really think I'm going to butcher. I believe it's pronounced Jun Young. I hope that's how you pronounce it. If not, I'm so sorry. But Jun Young, he is harboring a very dark secret. He likes to spy on women in bathrooms, especially at work. And one day he sees Daya on the cameras and he just becomes obsessed with her. And this obsession turns very sinister. So the reason why I would recommend this book, even though it does kind of teeter on horror and thriller, I recommend it because the message of this book is so important. In this book, the characters slowly descend into madness, and it's a book that kind of questions what is right and wrong. So the reason why it's called mocha is, I guess, this is a Korean term where it's a very big problem in Korea, where there are hidden cameras everywhere that spy on women without obviously their permission. I do know that this kind of happens everywhere, but in this book we are focused on South Korea specifically. And I just thought that the commentary about men and women and, you know, what kind of things men can get away with versus women, I just found that so interesting, and is one of the reasons why I love this book. I also did really enjoy the descent into madness, honestly. I was gripped by this story. It is very short. It is under 300 pages, but it packs a punch. It has a lot of layers, a lot of different subjects are touched on in this book. It is a thriller, it is a horror, and it also kind of has a lot of social commentary in it, which I found very interesting. So if you're looking for a short read and you don't mind something that is scary, or you even love horror books, I would honestly really recommend this one, as I was thinking about this ending all night, and I just had to sit with all the feelings that I got from it. Obviously, as a woman in modern day times too, this topic of conversation of being spied on and hidden cameras everywhere, they're watching you, it is obviously very uncomfortable. So I just found it so interesting to read about, especially in another country. The only thing I will say though is that still just keep in mind that it is a little scary and there are some violent scenes in this book. So if you're somebody that maybe you can't handle that, maybe skip this one and come back to it later. Alright guys, and that is it for today's video. That wraps up my 10 recommendations for popular Booktok books centered around the thriller genre, obviously. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Comment down below any Booktok or other thriller recommendations that you have that you really enjoyed. Let me know your opinions. If you guys read some of the ones that I mentioned in today's video, let me know if you like them, dislike them, all that good stuff. I love to hear all of your opinions. And if you also enjoyed this video and you want to see more from me, please subscribe. I am new to BookTube. I am on Booktok if you want to give me a follow there, but I would really love to grow this BookTube channel. So yeah, I really hope that you stick around, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye besties!